Your phone vibrates once, no caller ID, no message preview, just a single pulse against your palm, sharp and deliberate. You don't check it immediately. You let 3 seconds pass, eyes fixed on the condensation sliding down your glass. The cafe hums at a steady 42 decibels, espresso machine cycling, ceramic tapping, low conversations blending into static. Nothing spikes. No one moves too fast. Still, your pulse shifts. That pattern 1 vibration was never for routine contact. You already know what it means. Your cover is compromised, not suspected, not fragile. Blown. You lower your gaze, unlock the screen under the table. The message is blank. That's protocol. The absence is the signal. You count exits without moving your head. Front door, 12 meters. Service corridor behind the counter, 8. Window to your right, reinforced, not an option. You take a sip of coffee you don't taste. Temperature, 61 degrees Celsius. Your hand is steady. That part still works. It didn't start here. It started in a fluorescent hallway, 3rd floor of a language institute, where the air conditioning ran too cold, 19 degrees year-round, and the walls smelled faintly of adhesive and dust. You were good with accents. Not perfect, but precise enough to pass unnoticed. That was all they needed. No one said recruitment. It was framed as assessment, a conversation, then another, then paperwork that didn't use names, only numbers. You signed without reading everything, not out of trust, out of momentum. Training wasn't dramatic. No speeches, no symbols, just repetition. You learned to construct lies with internal consistency: birthplaces, schools, minor injuries, favorite foods. You memorized them until they displaced older memories. You practiced forgetting. Shooting came later. Basic, functional, enough to close distance if needed. But the emphasis was always on proximity without detection. You were told distance is failure. If you're close enough to hear them breathe, you're doing it right. Your first identity lasted 11 months. You made small mistakes. Pauses half a second too long. Eye contact held a fraction too steady. They rotated you out before anyone else noticed. Debrief was clinical. No reprimand. Just notes. Adjustments. Then a new file. New name. New history. Each iteration cleaner than the last. Years compress into routines. Same cafe, same table, same order: black coffee. No sugar. Served in a chipped cup you recognize by the hairline fracture near the rim. You arrive at 08:10 dour. You leave at 08:32. You sibled your back to the wall. You catalog faces, regulars first, deviations second. A man who comes twice a week shifts to 3 times. A woman changes her bag. A waiter favors his left wrist today: minor strain. You record everything without writing it down. Your memory becomes a ledger. Sleep fragments. 90 minutes at a time. You set alarms you don't need. Dreams become procedural lists, routes, names cycling without context. You stop calling anyone by anything that could be traced. Even in private, you refer to yourself in neutral terms. You minimize mirrors. Reflection invites comparison. Comparison creates gaps. Advancement is incremental, not a promotion you announce. A change in tasks. You move from observation to facilitation, then to contact. You carry messages that are never written. You coordinate meetings that never officially occur. Your compensation increases in quiet increments, deposits routed through 3 intermediaries, always rounded numbers. 4,000, 6,500, 8,000 per month. No taxes, no statements. You don't spend much. Money is weight you don't need. There are rules no one writes down. Never be the first to arrive or the last to leave. Never correct a detail unless the error creates risk. Never ask for clarification twice. If you need to, you already failed. Creative compliance becomes the method. You follow directives in form, adjust them in execution. If told to meet at 1400, you arrive at 1352 and position yourself where 1400 can be observed without being occupied. If instructed to maintain contact, you define contact as line of sight, not conversation. The system rewards outcomes, not interpretations. Bureaucracy exists, but it's diffuse. No central office you can point to. Reports are delivered verbally, then forgotten. Decisions appear as instructions with no visible origin. You learn to anticipate them. Patterns emerge: cycles of activity every 6 to 8 weeks, lulls that feel longer than they are. You align yourself with the rhythm. When it accelerates, you reduce variables. When it slows, you expand observation. Relationships thin out. You maintain a few, but they are constructed. Conversations about weather, traffic, minor inconveniences. You avoid specifics. When someone asks where you're from, you answer with a place you've never visited but can describe in detail. When they ask about family, you give them 2 names and no stories. Over time, they stop asking, not out of suspicion, out of disinterest. You become easy to ignore. That is a form of safety. Isolation settles gradually. It's not a dramatic break, it's a series of omissions. You stop calling numbers you used to know by memory. You let messages expire. You attend fewer gatherings. Eventually, none. Time becomes segmented by tasks, not events. Weeks pass measured in completed routines, not experiences. You adapt. You function. 3 years in, your current identity feels stable. No flags, no anomalies. You've reduced your footprint to predictable lines. The system assigns you a deeper role proximity to a target set that requires sustained interaction. You accept without acknowledgement. Acceptance is assumed. Then the vibration. 1 pulse. No caller ID. You finish your coffee. You don't rush. You stand, leave exact change coins placed in a stack, always the same orientation. You walk out at 0832. Outside, the air is warmer 28 degrees. Traffic noise rises to 68 decibels. You blend into it. You take a route you've never taken before, which is itself a deviation you log internally. You don't look back. At the second intersection, a man falls into step beside you. Not close enough to touch. Close enough to be heard without raising his voice. He smells faintly of antiseptic and tobacco. His shoes are new. He matches your pace without effort. He says your real name, quietly, correctly, no hesitation. You don't react, not externally. Internally, a sequence initiates. Confirmation of breach. Assessment of options. Distance to nearest controlled space, unknown. Presence of surveillance, likely. Probability of extraction, low. Probability of containment, high. He keeps walking. You've been hard to find, he says, using the name again, as if testing it for weight. You note his accent local but flattened, his cadence trained. He doesn't look at you. That's deliberate. The system didn't prepare you for this moment explicitly. It prepared you for categories. Compromise falls into 1. The response tree branches. You can disengage, accelerate, create distance, attempt to disappear. That exposes patterns. It risks drawing attention to others. You can engage, redirect, probe, attempt to identify his affiliation. That risks confirming your value. Or, you can terminate close distance, apply force, neutralize. That creates noise. Noise attracts structure. Structure collapses networks. You keep walking. Your hand remains at your side. You feel the outline of the tool you carry. Weight. 0.9 kilograms. You know exactly how long it takes to deploy. You also know how long it takes for a crowd to notice. He says, they're already pulling threads. Plural, not specific. It could be a bluff. It could be accurate. He doesn't ask you to stop. He doesn't issue a demand. He provides information. That's a technique. It invites you to complete the sentence he hasn't said. You turn left without signaling. He follows. Your pace remains constant. You measure his breathing controlled. No strain. He's trained. That narrows possibilities but doesn't resolve them. Your decision forms without language. You won't run. Running confirms the breach and spreads it. You won't engage in dialogue beyond necessity. Words create records and memory years, and his. You adjust your path toward a space with limited exits and controlled visibility, a service alley behind a closed storefront. You've cataloged it before. Width, 2.4 meters. Length, 18. Camera at the entrance, blind spot at the midpoint. You enter. He enters. At 9 meters, you slow half a step. At 10, you pivot. Distance closes to less than 1 meter. Your hand moves. The action is efficient, practiced, devoid of flourish. You apply force where it ends things quickly. He reacts, but not fast enough. There's a moment of fraction where his eyes register recognition, not of you, of the outcome. It's over in under 4 seconds. The alley returns to baseline. Sound levels normalize. You lower him out of direct view. You check for devices. 1. You remove it. You don't search further. Time is a variable you don't extend. You exit through the far end. You don't look back, You don't increase speed. You merge with foot traffic. Within 2 blocks, you've adjusted your route twice, then returned to a familiar pattern. Deviation minimized. The system responds without speaking to you. Contacts go silent. Dead drops are cleared. Locations you used become inaccessible. You receive no further messages. That is the message. Containment is in progress. Whether you are contained or simply isolated is not specified. Days pass, then weeks. Your routines shift. New cafes, new cafes, new paths. You reduce your circle to 0. You speak less. When you do, you choose words that can be discarded. You monitor for sign surveillance tails, repeated faces, anomalies in timing. There are fewer than you expect. Either the system is efficient, or you've been deprioritized. Your identity continues to erode, not dramatically, functionally. You stop recalling details that aren't necessary. Your real name surfaces once, unprompted, while you're washing your hands in a public restroom. You say it under your breath. It sounds incorrect, like a word in a language you no longer speak. You don't repeat it. Time accumulates. 4 years since entry. 36 months in your current cover. Income continues to arrive for a while, then tapers, then stops. You adjust. You had reserves. You reduce expenses further. You move to a smaller place. You keep the same routines. Consistency is the last structure you control. The realization doesn't arrive as a shock. It settles. The system you serve doesn't need to close the loop with you. It doesn't need to extract you or eliminate you. It can simply remove relevance. You become a completed file with no retrieval value. The illusion was not that you were important. It was that your participation required acknowledgement. You consider leaving entirely. Crossing borders. Adopting a new identity without authorization. The tools are there. The skills remain. But the process would mirror what you already are constructed. Provisional. Contingent. There is no outside that isn't another system with different rules. Months later, you take a job that requires no name beyond what's on a temporary badge. Warehouse inventory. Night shift. 22-06-1206. Temperature controlled at 16 degrees. You move boxes from one pallet to another. You scan codes that don't matter. The rhythm is predictable. The stakes are negligible. You find a kind of stability in the absence of consequence. You watch new hires come in. Disoriented. Replaceable. They learn the routes between aisles. They memorize scanner beeps. They stop asking questions after the first week. The structure absorbs them. It always does. One night, during a break, your phone vibrates. Once. No caller ID. You don't check it immediately. You let 3 seconds pass. The old pattern reasserts itself, precise and intact. You feel your pulse adjust. You recognize the sequence, not because it's unique, because it's repeatable. You don't open the message. You finish your coffee vending machine, 58 degrees, too sweet. You return to the floor. You pick up a box. Weight, 12 kilograms. You carry it to the next pallet. You place it down. You scan. The system registers the movement. Inventory updates. No one notices you specifically. At the end of the shift, you leave the badge in a tray with 20 others. Identical. You step outside into the early morning. The air is cooler. The city is quieter. You walk a route that doesn't matter. You realize you haven't used your real name out loud in 3 years. You're not sure it still belongs to you. The phone in your pocket is silent now. Or maybe it isn't. It doesn't change the process. Somewhere, someone is being assessed in a cold hallway. They are being told this is an opportunity. They are signing documents without names. They are learning to construct a life that can be discarded. The system continues. Clean, uninterrupted. It doesn't remember you. It doesn't need to. You keep walking.